Well, you know what time it is.
All right, everybody, welcome to our Sunday 3 p.m. stream. If you guys are tuning in, thank you guys for being here today. And we've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to try to stay on point and try to stay concise with this. The reason why is anytime we're doing a massive service like this, there are many different components we're checking. Before we get started, let's start off with the announcements. Guys, thank you for hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button. It really does help build the channel. We're working on doing more projects like this for you guys, doing more to bring you guys a bigger collection of projects as well. LS Goat will be making an appearance probably in the next few weeks. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of projects stacked between now and then that I do need to knock out a bunch of these. Some of these are going to be rather quick ones. Some of them are going to take more time, such as a 100K full service. Anytime a vehicle reaches 100,000 miles, a lot needs to be done to that vehicle to maintain the longevity of that vehicle. And not doing these repairs shortens the life of the vehicle. So that's kind of what brings about today's topic. But again, guys, thank you for all the support. We are continuing to grow and build every week, so this is good to see. Thank you guys for the support. Let's go ahead and transition into our topic. All right, guys, so our topic is this massive 100K service. Each vehicle is different when it comes to 100K services. They require different things. A 100K service on this vehicle is going to look way different than a 100K service on this one. Now, you may do similar things, but due to the size of components, the amount of moving parts, it changes what you need to do. So, on our Kia Soul, when this one reaches 100,000, we will be doing a 100K service on that. And most of those revolve around shocks, struts, doing your tune-up, such as your plugs, your coils, and if you have wires. This vehicle doesn't have wires because the wire is part of the coil pack. This one does have wires, so we did have to replace the wires in this one, along with the coil packs and the spark plugs. I do have some of the used spark plugs here that I'm going to show you guys. So some of the plugs, like this one, we caught this at a good time. The reason I say we caught this at a good time was it was very clear that this one needed some service done. The fuel mileage was starting to drop off, which is a sign that it needs ignition components. Also, it had a little bit of a rough idle. Didn't have quite the acceleration that it used to. These can all be solved with this 100K service. So let's start with front to back. Whenever we're dealing with a vehicle that we are just told to do that service on, we start from the front and we work our way back. Meaning we check tires, we check brakes, we check suspension components, such as inner and outer tie rod ends. We check upper control arms, lower control arms. We check sway bar end links. If it's a four-wheel drive, we check our CV shafts, and we also check our drive shafts and make sure that all of our U-joints are tight. If we got anything that's off or doesn't look right, that is the time to fix it. On these vehicles here, the Suburban, the Tahoes, these have an added air ride suspension to it, meaning that we do need to look at that air ride suspension and service it if it needs to be done. So on this one, the suspension clearly needed to have some work done to it. And honestly, this one wasn't super bad though. The one that we're going to be doing on the Tahoe, that one's more concerning. That one has a little bit more rust in areas that came from a major metropolitan area where this did not. This one seemed to get better washes done on it. So those are in a lot better shape. So the air component ride and all that was in good shape. I did notice that there was a little bit of noise coming out of the pump on this one. So the air pump on this one will need to be replaced in the near future. That was part of that 100K service that we were checking over. Once we get underneath the hood, some of our services underneath the hood are, like we said, coils, plugs, wires, and a throttle body cleaning. For any shop out there that does not remove the throttle body before they try to do this service, you guys are actually shortchanging the customers. And basically what is happening is carbon buildup happens rather easily on these engines because it is pulling oil up out of the valve covers and dumping it right back into the front of the engine, meaning we get a carbon slime on the front side, or I should say on the back side of the blade on the throttle body. That carbon buildup over time messes with your throttle response, messes with your horsepower, messes with your performance and your fuel mileage. It is a massive, massive thing to pull that throttle body. You guys have seen me do it before, and I can do it quickly because I've done so many of them. But it is a most needed and underappreciated repair that can be done to vehicles. It restores fuel mileage, restores torque and horsepower. It's something that needs to be done to every vehicle. And honestly, it should be done before 100K, but 100K is pretty much the cutoff. For my customers, I usually recommend about a 50 to 75K where we take the throttle body off, we clean it front to back, we put it back together with a new gasket. The gasket is the key factor here. If we don't put a new gasket on it, it doesn't seal up. And if it doesn't seal up, you have no chance of getting this thing to run right. And that's really the secret to the whole thing is we want the vehicles to run better than what we got them brought to us. And that's the thing. I always aim that when a vehicle leaves here, it's leaving in better shape than when it came in. And some shops don't do that. Some shops only fix what's broken and give it back to you, even though they know something else is about to break. And they ride the bill and hope that you bring it back to them for the next repair. To me, that is a bad, bad practice. All right. Just checking a few things, guys. Awesome. Good to have you guys in here on this Sunday. I do want to take a few moments right now. I want to say that we are working on our second channel. Part of me did not feel right about launching that second channel as long as Charlie Kirk had not had his funeral. I will be working on that channel over the next couple of weeks to launch it with a few videos. Depending on how those videos do, we'll decide on how much time I dedicate to that second channel. Jay, good to have you in here on this Sunday. Yeah, today might be a little slower in the chat, guys. A lot of people are watching Charlie Kirk's funeral, but I did need to do this video, and I do need to be live when I say I'm going to be live for you guys. I cannot miss those times. It's really crucial for me to be here at the time that I say I'm going to, so I'm going to stick to my word on those. I will be back tonight at 7 p.m. for the news as well. But let's continue on with this 100K service. Customer gave this vehicle to me, said, perform the services that need to be done. I have a very good working relationship with the owner of this vehicle. He trusted me, gave me the vehicle, and said, do what needs to be done. I want this vehicle to last. During my inspections, we found a few things. We found that pads are going to need to be done before winter. So we have a few months to go. And honestly, he could maybe skirt through winter. But because the vehicle is used to haul his wife and kids, we're not going to chance it. We're going to do a pad slap on this vehicle, meaning that I will be changing the brake pads on this, but I'm not going to change the rotors, and I'm not going to change anything else with the vehicle unless a caliper is bad during the teardown. That being said, that was just one thing we found through the 100K service / inspection. We also found that that air motor in the back is making noise, meaning that it's only a matter of time before it just completely fails. And when it does, these things get really squishy in the back. They don't have the absorption that they need, and oftentimes you'll notice a sag in the back if you put any weight back there. So because this is a Suburban, it's got the third row. If they were hauling enough people, they would notice that the back of the vehicle will squat. Once that happens, we got to go in and fix that air ride system. But knowing that the pump is already making noise, this gives us time to get a new pump. Be ready when that repair comes. We can also inspect the area where the pump is and see what else might break when we take this apart. So this is why the 100K is so important. We also just did an oil change on this. Honestly, if you're going to do it, oil change would be advised to do at the 100K service just to completely freshen up the vehicle. I'm going to get into the fluids here in just a bit. 100K services, the fluids do need to be changed. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. The reason why is those fluids only have a certain shelf life. And some of them have been shortened over the years because of technology that has been put in that is maybe not necessarily the best for the vehicle. And one of those I'm going to talk about is the transmission. That'll be coming up here in just a bit. When we're underneath, we're checking brake fluid to make sure it doesn't contain too much water. If the water content is high in brake fluid, it will rust the components from the inside out. We don't want water in our brakes. Why do we get water? As brake fluid heats up down by the caliper, oftentimes it will gather condensation from the heating and cooling effect. So you'll gain moisture inside the fluid from heating up, cooling down, heating up, cooling down. Those cycles will compound and put water into your brake system, which will cause rust. If we have high water content in our brakes will fail prematurely. So we always check the brake fluid. If it's questionable, we do a brake fluid flush. 100K service is a good time to do that brake fluid flush. Next, we also check coolant. Now, we may not flush coolant at this time, but we are checking it to make sure that it meets the range that it needs to meet. Meaning that we need to make sure that it's good for the temperature that we're in. If we're in warmer climates, it needs to be able to protect at higher temps. If we're in colder climates, it needs to be good to where it's not going to freeze when it gets really cold. We can check that real easily with this one tool. This one tool right here allows us to check our coolant. This tells us exactly where we're at. If it's going to be good enough for freezing, or if it's going to be enough when the engine gets hot. Now, just because the coolant is good if it gets hot doesn't mean that the engine itself is. So if we are at 250, we've probably cooked head gaskets. And that's just a fact. So whenever we get really, really high temps, oftentimes from a head gasket going out or other mechanical issues with inside the engine, when we start getting that hot, we start doing damage to other components within the system. Give me ones if everything makes sense so far. Give me ones if everything makes sense so far. Awesome, Jay. Cool. All right. So we've covered the coolant. Usually we flush this at 150K. At 150K, we also change our differential fluids, meaning that we will take the time to pull our differential cases apart, take the drain plugs out, flush that coolant out or that liquid out. In that case, it would be gear oil, and we'd put fresh gear oil in. We would do transfer case, front diff, rear diff, and coolant. So those 4 areas would get hit during a 150K service. During the 100K service, we will check all of them and make sure that they're full and that there's no signs of leaks. If there's any signs of leaks, now would be the time we would schedule it, get it fixed, do the maintenance, go through that whole process. Let's go ahead and open the hood on this Suburban. I want to get you guys under the hood and show you guys what we did for this 100K. Remember, I said every vehicle is different. But most of your V8s are going to be like this. So most V8s are going to be of this style here. Now, does not matter if it's Ford, Dodge, or Chevy. We are going to be looking at a very similar situation. So, at the 100K, we are pulling these covers off. Underneath here are the coils. We are running new spark plug wires, and we're putting new plugs in. Guys, this vehicle got the E3 spark plugs. The reason we went with the E3s is it's an upgrade that allows you to get better fuel mileage. This is not only the third time that I've done a test with E3 spark plugs, but I can tell you this vehicle is getting 3 more miles to the gallon by doing this tune-up. I took it on a test run. It went from 17 miles to the gallon to 20. So these plugs are worth the money, and they're not that much more expensive than the double platinum or the iridium plugs. They're very similar in price. Also, upgrading the coils to a higher voltage coil has really made all the difference in this vehicle. Also, when we're doing that 100K service, what we're also going to do, guys, is we are doing a throttle body cleaning. We're taking this cover off. We're unbolting our throttle body, disconnecting our wire. We have 1 wire to disconnect. We pull 4 bolts and replace the rubber gasket down here. Once we replace that rubber gasket and we spray out and clean the back of this throttle body, we're ready to bolt it back on. That being said, cleaning that throttle body made a huge difference on this thing in throttle response. But here's where most people go wrong when they do a throttle body cleaning. Because throttle bodies have all gone electric, at least in the last probably 10 to 15 years, you need to go through a relearn procedure. Each vehicle is different on how that relearn needs to be conducted. This vehicle, you need to turn the vehicle on, do not rev it up, let it idle for 3 minutes. 3 full minutes. It doesn't hurt to let it go to 4. You idle it, you shut it off for 1 full minute. It has to be a full minute. If you cut it short, it doesn't work. You have to go the 1 full minute. After that, you fire it back up and let it idle again for another 3 more minutes. Oftentimes I let it go into the 4-minute mark. Once it hits that, you can shut it off and resume driving it like normal. If you do not do the relearn on the throttle body, it still thinks that the throttle body is where it was at with the buildup of the carbon that sits behind that throttle body. The reason we clean the throttle body is to get that gunk out of there and restore the performance and power. When we do that, the computer needs to know, hey, this throttle body is clean. There's nothing there that you need to calculate for. And the reason we're doing those idle times is that is the relearn time needed for the computer to say, okay, clean throttle body, and it's communicating back and forth during those 3 minutes. When you shut it off, it locks those measurements into the computer. When you fire it back up, it's double checking that last cycle. And as it double checks that last cycle, then it locks those down that this is the current. And from this point on, it will adjust as more carbon gets built up behind the throttle blade. But if you don't do this, the computer doesn't know. And many times people have replaced throttle bodies and not done this procedure. And oftentimes, all they needed to do was the relearn. I had a Chevy Silverado that I worked on that kind of shares the name of the truck we got on the channel, Big Red. It was actually my brother's truck. And through that process, we learned that reprogramming that throttle body was super important. Now, his ultimately did go bad because the throttle position sensor built into it went out, meaning that the idle was bouncing all over the place. It wouldn't hold a steady idle even after doing the relearn, even after disconnecting and cleaning it again. It did not work. That told me that the throttle position of that throttle body had failed. And because it failed, there was nothing we could do. That's why I tell you guys, make sure that when you're spraying these out, that you keep the electronics up. Don't let the electronics hang down, because if you're spraying, it'll get down inside those electronics and short them out. You want to hold the electronics up so that gravity pushes that liquid down and keeps it away from all of the electrical components up here. Oftentimes I will agitate with my finger, clean up that gunk. Also, I'll spray on a rag and wipe it out the best I can with a rag. I try to avoid spraying directly on the throttle body. The reason for that is there has been issues with that. Even though you use a throttle body cleaner, do not use carb cleaner. Carburetor cleaner will remove a wax coating that is on throttle bodies. And if you spray carburetor cleaner, you remove that coating. It's almost like a clear coat. And if once it's gone, you can't restore it. That being said, if you're not careful, you can remove that coating with using the wrong sprays. Oh. What do you think, Jay? Have you ever had that where you've done a throttle body and had that had it to where it went bad right after you did the cleaning of it? Let me know if you've had that, Jay. Checking a few things while I'm waiting for Jay to respond back to me. All right. Yeah, today is going to be kind of slow, guys. I know, with it being Charlie Kirk's funeral, it's a heavy day for a lot of people in America. Scrolling through YouTube shorts and wasn't paying much attention. Well, thank you for being here, though. It does help. So, I was asking if you had any issues with spraying out a throttle body and then having it fail or having problems with it after you've cleaned it. It's a common problem that most people have. And when I did the 100K service on here, we had to clean out this throttle body. It was something that had to be done. We could tell there was a lack of performance and power with this thing. And in order to restore it, we didn't have a choice. We had to clean it. Yeah, probably once. Yeah, usually what happens, guys, is, like I said, there's a coating on that throttle body. If you spray it with carburetor cleaner, you just destroyed it. And if it gets down into the electronics, if you're holding it the wrong way and you're spraying in there and all that liquid runs into the electrical components, it shorts out that board. And yep, yeah, oftentimes you got to fix it right away because the idle just goes completely sideways on you and it won't idle at all. And my brother's truck was a good example of that. I sprayed it and there was one point where I went like this with the throttle body. I was holding it like this. One point I went like this and I was spraying. Too late. Liquid ran down through the butterfly shaft. The liquid got in there and shorted out the board. And it happens that quick. You have to really pay attention to where that throttle body is, and you can't sit there and move the blade a lot. When you open the blade, you hold it and don't move it. Hold it, clean it, then let it go. Don't open and close, open and close, open and close. The more you open and close that blade during the cleaning process, the higher chance you could damage some of the components within the throttle body. So it's better just move it once, hold it, spray everything that you need to spray, wipe it out real good, use paper towels, get that carbon out of there. But but don't tip it upside down and let that liquid get inside the electronics. And don't flop that blade back and forth a lot. That's usually what damages throttle bodies. Awesome. All right. So when it comes to 100K service, guys, the reason it's so important, and honestly, most people miss the fact of when they're doing a 100K service, they're going to overlook things because they want to save money. This isn't the time to save money. The vehicle has a lot of life left in it. And by not doing that 100K service properly, you're going to shorten the life of that vehicle. There's no two ways about it. By not getting the fluids changed out properly, not paying attention to where those fluids are at, you can shorten the life of a vehicle. Also, oil changes are super important. Guys, right now, for any GM vehicle running a VVT engine, this is variable valve timing or active fuel management, which is AFM. AFM vehicles need to have this service performed when you do an oil change. You need to pull a little bit of oil out. You need to put an oil flush into the engine. You need to idle that engine for 10 minutes. Then you need to drain it. When you do that, you're draining the oil hot, so make sure you're wearing very thick gloves that will keep you from getting burned. And let me grab that, actually. I want to show you guys this because this is the one I use for all VVT engines. And I use this on Champagne Bubbles. I use it on Big Red. I do not use it on Crimson Vortec because that's an older motor without variable valve timing or any active fuel management or cylinder cutout. It doesn't have any of that. Crimson Vortec is just a straight up V6 engine from back in the day. So this is what I use, guys, right here. And it's an oil system cleaner. What this is designed to do is go into your engine oil, circulate throughout the engine. It breaks down a lot of the carbon buildup deposits that are inside the engine. It doesn't take very much, just a very small amount of carbon inside of one of the lifters on these trucks for this thing to grenade a lifter. The oil needs to stay clean. 3,000 miles is what we all recommend. You can push it to 4, but I would not go anything over 5. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. This thing went over 5. The customer didn't bring it back to me in time. They were busy with it this summer. They drove it down to 0 on the oil life monitor. That means it probably went about 7,000 miles, which for oil, that's insane. It's too much. Oil gets filled with a bunch of carbon. It isn't that modern oils break down like conventional oil does. Synthetic oil will not break down, but what it will do is collect all the carbon within the engine and it will trap it in that oil. When it traps it in that oil, that carbon buildup can get wedged into valve train components. And once it does, it's going to cause problems. That's why a lot of dealers have recommended 3,000 mile oil changes on this. They've recommended different grades of oil. They've also recommended doing these flushes because this saves the upper valve train from having problems in the future. Every vehicle that has any kind of timing stuff with it, I run this at least once a year. Now, if they're putting on a ton of miles, I may even run this twice a year. Depends on how often I'm doing their oil changes. For someone that I'm doing an oil change every month, absolutely, they're going to get this treatment at least twice a year, maybe 3 times, because they're putting on a lot of miles in a short period of time. For people that don't run very many miles but might have a lot of idle time, I also run this twice a year. If they're really good about shutting their vehicle off and they drive from one point to another and shut it off, then I will usually go with a once a year flush. But that is a very rare situation, but most people fall under the 2 flushes a year setup. All right. Give me 1s if all of that made sense, 2 if it didn't, and tell me why. Jay says fair. 1. Yep. Yeah, anytime we've got these newer engines, we have to do an oil flush. And honestly, if I don't work on the vehicle regularly and somebody brings it in for this 100K service, and these 100K services are not cheap, guys. They're not. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. If you're doing a 100K service and your mechanic's actually halfway good, you're going to spend some money. These coils in here are not cheap. These got the round coils, meaning that they're about $100 a coil. We do all 8 of them because we're trying to restore the performance and power. The reason that the coils have to be changed at this point is they've had too many life cycles on them, meaning that the coils aren't putting out the voltage that they should be because they're old. This vehicle is already almost 10 years old, meaning that the coils are original and it's taken all of those life cycles so far of this engine. They need to be replaced so that over the next 100,000, we're not going to run into problems. Oftentimes, you would see old school vehicles, especially old carbureted vehicles, they would do a 100K service at about 30K. It's because the quality of the components back then were not as good. And oftentimes, they were running 1 coil for 8 cylinders, where now we run 8 coils, 1 for each cylinder. So that's really the difference. This is why this 100K service and the 30K service back in the day had 2 way total different price points. It's because we had less components we were putting in, which meant less labor, less time, less things to take apart, and it was honestly a lot easier. But all the systems have to be checked at the 100K. We can't skip any. I'm leaving 1 for the last here, guys. There's 1 service that I really got to talk to you guys about if you have any GM vehicle, especially if it contains the 8-speed automatic transmission. I recommend this to all my customers, but the problem is I don't have the tool. I don't have the tool, so I can't do this service. So I have a local shop that I work with that has the tools and does a lot of the work that I don't have because I'm a small guy working out of my garage. So biggest thing in business, guys, is make sure you have good working relationships with other shops. We don't want to cut each other's throat. They're going to do services, and then I'm going to do services. And my services, I will tailor different than their services. Could they do what I do? Yeah, but they're tailored to do other things that they can do quicker and make more money on. Where I'm tailored to doing more of the offshoot stuff and the troubleshooting stuff. It's not that they can't do it. It's that oftentimes the troubleshooting takes a lot longer. And a lot of these places want to charge book rate. I don't charge book rate. I don't. I charge a fair rate for what I do based on the amount of time that I have stuck in the vehicle. I keep it simple. I don't overcharge, and my customers appreciate that. This is how you build a business model working in the automotive industry. And the more work you do and the better quality you do, the more customers you're going to get over time. It takes time to build that kind of a business. And I've scaled mine back because I do a lot of filming. And because I do filming and I'm showing you guys here on YouTube, this is why I haven't scaled this up to be open for more repairs. I also have a full-time job, so I'm doing this as a side gig to be able to do stuff for you guys on the channel and be able to give back. That is the motto, or the model that I'm basing this on here. So just to give you guys a little bit of insight on how I do my shop stuff. I know I haven't talked about it much lately. I figured it would be a good time for me to kind of bring you guys up to speed on that part of it, especially for some people that might be looking at being in the automotive industry. So awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's talk about this dreaded transmission, shall we? So guys, it wasn't that long ago that GM decided that they could get better fuel mileage with getting more speeds inside the transmission. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the good and the bad with adding more speeds to the transmission. Good, we can keep our RPMs down at highway speed and not use as much fuel. Bad, we can have more problems with the transmission because there's more gears. Good, we have a better RPM range. We can control our RPMs better because we have more gears to choose from. Bad, we can cause more problems because we have more gears to choose from. That being said, the GM 8-speed transmission and 10-speed transmissions are notorious for having issues. And one of the issues that the 8-speeds have that are unique to the 8-speed and not the 6-speed, Big Red, that's outside, has a 6-speed. This has the 8-speed. The Black Tahoe that you guys have seen in here the last few weeks has the 8-speed. Those 8-speed transmissions have a thermostat in the oil line. That thermostat is designed to raise the temperature of the oil rapidly, but could also cause overheating in the transmission fluid. It is recommended that you do a thermostat bypass or delete on that particular part. You do that when you do the transmission flush at 100K. So if you have a GM at 100K, take it in, find somebody that will delete out that thermostat. They put a bypass tube in it and they bypass the thermostat. What that does is keeps your transmission temps down so you're not overheating that transmission. If you do any towing or pulling, you're going to want to do it much sooner than 100K. If you're towing and hauling a lot, get it done as soon as you can. That is a massive, massive needs to be done. Transmission fluid does have to be flushed at 100K. I don't care what vehicle you have, that fluid has to be changed out. I recommend changing the filter, but some places will overcharge you to change a filter. If that's the case, you have them flush the fluid. When you get home, you pull the pan, you change out the filter, and refill the transmission. And I will probably have to do that on a truck coming up soon. So there might be a pan getting pulled on Big Red. But I've got a few other issues I got to take care of on that truck first. That truck we're also doing 100K, but that one's going to be a little late because it's got 119 on it already. So that one we're going to be doing 100K service on it too. Guys, we have 3 of these trucks we're going to be doing 100K on. The only reason I didn't break this one down live for you guys on video, I didn't know when the customer was going to be here to pick this truck up. They're probably about an hour out, so I'll probably wrap up before they get here. But the reason I fast forwarded this, and I did a lot of work on this weekend, between trying to get the wires out, getting the plugs out, making sure the new plugs are tight, doing a tire rotation, and chasing an air leak in a tire, it sucked up a lot of my weekend. I stuck a lot of time into this weekend. Yeah, it was fruitful. It was a good job. I got paid really well to do this job. But these are the things that we run into when we're open and we're doing services for people. A lot of times our time gets monopolized. So, one aspect I'd like to talk about a little bit here with you guys is time management. Making sure that we take time to slow down, be with our family. You know, we do need to take that downtime too. We can't be 100% work all the time. And I know a lot of shop owners that are like, no, go hard all the time. You can't. Eventually, you're going to break. Eventually, you're going to decline and you're not going to be able to keep up. I used to do a lot of clips, guys. Honestly, my channel has a ton of clips, almost 500 some clips on my YouTube channel. So I used to do a ton of clips. Clips took me a lot of time between doing titles, descriptions, thumbnails, editing the clips, all of that. And it took a lot of time from my family. Honestly, I scaled a lot of that back and just went live. Now, if I want to do a clip, I can go through my live, pull a clip, make it, put it out. I should be doing more of that, man. I really do need to find a clipper who's willing to do those clips for me. So, at some point, I'm going to have to try to get somebody to do clips. Also, with the second channel, I'll probably want somebody doing clips anyway. So I have the name created for the second channel, guys. It is At the Cross. It will be a new YouTube channel. I am working on getting the X account set up for that as well. Facebook, I even thought about TikTok, even though I really don't like TikTok. But that's where everybody is right now. So I'm looking into getting all of that stuff set up over the next couple of weeks. I want to get that going. I didn't really want to put too much out there until after the funeral service of Charlie Kirk. But afterwards, it's go time. It's time to get this thing going and get this channel out there. There's a lot going on right now that we need to address some of the issues, and we can't let it slide. And I'm trying to keep this channel and that channel separate. I thought about making it all one, but that's a horribly bad idea because the two contents just don't mix well. All right, to have you guys in here on this Sunday. If I missed anything during the 100K service, put it down in the description right now or chat it in. Is there anything I missed? And if so, tell me what it is. Pretty much covered every component and every major component on the vehicle. There are a few minor ones that I didn't talk about, but some of those are cosmetics. So like interior checking for windows, making sure your power windows work right, making sure your door locks work right, checking your key fobs, making sure your key fobs have good batteries in them. That's all stuff you could do at a 100K service. And honestly, the batteries usually last that long anyways, and then you're putting new batteries in your key fobs. But I already did a video on key fobs. I wasn't about to do that today. The biggest challenge on this thing was getting this throttle body clean, doing the relearn. They needed a tire rotation to get them through winter, and they also needed a tire fixed. They had a tire that just kept going flat. Let me show you. They kept having a tire that kept losing air. This is actually kind of funny. So I'm going to refer you to an old story of a lion who had a nail in his foot. The nail in his foot was causing him much discomfort. And he came across a mouse one day who said, I can make it to where your foot doesn't hurt, but please don't eat me. After he agreed, the mouse looked at his foot and pulled out a nail. Guys, this little piece right here got wedged into the tire, and it was just deep enough to poke a hole. We can literally see the sharp edge of the tip. If you look real close or zoom in, you'll see that this tip is shiny because it was rubbing on the metal cords in the tire. It barely poked through. But that slow leak was enough that the tire, over a few days, would drop 20 pounds of air. And it was a challenge to find it. The only way I was able to find it, guys, was I've worked on cars most of my life. I knew that a slow leak like this was going to be a very small hole. So as I was looking over the tread depth, I was looking for any minor small cuts. When I came across the small cut, I sprayed some glass cleaner on the top and watched to see if it foamed up or bubbled. I found one spot that just barely had anything seeping out of it. I mean, barely. So I took a screwdriver and wiggled a screwdriver around it. And as I wiggled the screwdriver around, I found the nail. And I was able to work the nail up far enough that I was able to take a side cutters or a metal snips, grab onto it, and pull it out. So something as small as this caused a massive problem in a tire. And they kept putting air in it. And they kept chasing the problem. They tried spraying it. They couldn't find it. But I was able to find it because I took the tire off. I was able to rotate the tire and do slow rotations and look at the tread. And as I looked at the tread, I found the spot where it was leaking. Tire rotations are going to be really important, guys. It doesn't matter if you're at the 100K service or not. Every other oil change, you should be rotating your tires. Realistically, every other oil change, rotate tires. And when you don't, you'll start chopping tires. You'll chop either the insides or the outsides. You'll also have weird wear. Like if they're on the back too long, it'll wear in the center of the tire. If you have them on the front, it's going to wear on the outer edges because you're turning the tires. Awesome, awesome. Good to have you guys in here on this Sunday. If you guys got any questions, chat them in down below. I'll read them on screen and see if I can help you with your problems. We do this every Sunday at 3 p.m. and then I come back at 7 p.m. at night and we do our recap. We also cover the weekly news. So we do this every Sunday, double stream. The first one is our project that we do. Like I said, the only reason you guys aren't seeing me turn the wrenches on it is I needed to make sure this vehicle was done for my customer. I did not want to leave components open and have them show up, and now I needed to hurry up and finish it, not only for you guys on camera, but also for the customer. So what I did was I got the vehicle done, build them out, got everything done, and now I'm rewinding through this process, what we did to it, what I'm going to be suggesting to the customer for the future, and then kind of where we're going to go from here. Suspension components usually are around that 100K as well. So shocks and struts, usually 100K. The reason that we didn't do them on this one is this one has the air ride system. So we looked at the air ride, found that there was something wrong with it, knowing we're going to go back into that air ride. So at that time, we will address it. We're not going to address it today in this repair because we don't have the components to fix that air ride system on hand. And if we don't have all the components, it doesn't pay to dig into it. So I will get the components and then reschedule a time for them to bring it in over a weekend. And I will need a weekend with that because these things, these air ride systems, are overcomplicated at best. We have to check all the airlines. When we replace a pump, we've got to go through a different set of processes to make sure we don't have contamination in the air system prior to hooking it up. It can be a big deal. And I do want to do one for you guys, so we may be doing one on this one or on the Tahoe that was here last. Well, you guys didn't see that last week. Last week was the interview with the owner of the Honda and that Tahoe. Give me ones if you guys had a chance to watch that that interview with that vehicle owner. Give me ones if you saw that interview last week. Cool. What did you guys think of it? What did you guys think of that interview with that owner last week? There were a few things I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I like that once we got the audio fixed, Jay, thanks to Jay, he let us know that the audio wasn't good. And what I wound up having to do was rebooting my whole audio system. So I had to reboot the whole audio system, start the stream over. I tried to keep it very chill, very calm with him. It wasn't meant to be confrontational at all. He's actually trying to do a really good thing. The hard part I see him having in the future is how he's going to scale this business and how he's eventually going to make enough money off of this business to make it sustainable. That's going to be the challenge. I think a lot of it is he's trying to help a lot of families that are just starting out, whether it be single mothers or whatever the case might be. He's trying to help people get a fresh start. In that process, he wants to offer the rideshare program that allows him to help people get to work. It's a really noble effort that he's doing, and I'll have to see how he's going to scale it in the future. He is talking about adding a service. We talked about it briefly, but he wants to add a truck to it, a small truck such as a Toyota or something like that, that he could haul a dresser or a few boxes. That way, when people are moving from a house to an apartment or whatever the case might be, he can help them with that process. I think some of his business model is that he wants to do this and get it set up through the state in order to get the funding that he needs to continue growing the business. I don't know if that really came across during that interview or not, but that's kind of what he's looking at doing, is scaling this up to where he can get it, funding through other organizations that'll help him build it. The hard part is right now he's just starting out, so he needs to get the first few families in order to do that with, that he's giving them, rides to and from work. He's also setting up programs where people can donate food, clothing, whatever, and then he gets it to those families, or he will hook you up with that family that needs those, and then you can give that directly to the family. So it's kind of a barter system that he's working on. It's a really good idea. I want to see how it comes together on a practical sense. And his story really got to why he's doing this. That was the thing that when I first talked to him and I was doing vehicles for him, that was the big thing that I noticed. His story was the reason why he's doing it. From having COVID and having his kidneys damaged and his GI tract, he really did look at life differently. He doesn't look at it the same as most people, like, how can I make money? What can I get out of this system? How can I do this? He's not thinking from the entrepreneur sense. He's thinking from, how can I support and help take care of others? And I think that is a really good way to go about what he's trying to do. Because he's not going to put the people above profit. And oftentimes when you're doing a situation like that, that's that's the right way to approach it. So that's why I brought him on, guys, because I really thought it was important for you guys to see how this helps him and how this helps the community, and really the importance of being there for each other. Jay, was there anything in that interview that you had a question about? I know that you might have cut out later in the interview. Was there anything that you had questions about? Um, we may be revisiting a video with him when we add another vehicle, like how the business is going, how it's scaling. Nah, okay. Um, yeah, it just one of those things when we're going live, we try to stick to the topic, try to keep things going smoothly. At a certain point, I kind of do an open discussion like we're doing now, but I really wanted to hit on the topic of the ride share and a lot of his um, how he's setting this up to be a barter system. You know, that to me that was something that nobody's doing. You know, the fact that he can use his resources to link, maybe somebody needs to have some repairs done on their house and they're good at working on cars. He wants to develop a network to where he can hook up the person who knows how to work on houses and the person who knows how to work on cars, and they can trade their time and labor without having to exchange money. So that is some of the process he's working on. But it's all getting ran through his Ken Family MN.org. And his brother is out in California, or no, Arizona. Sorry, Arizona. And they're doing it out there. They already have Arizona set up as a hub. They also are working on Mississippi. So if they can get all three locations going, it would be a really good thing. Uh, it's a lot to set up right now. So I'm watching him try to set up quite a bit. You know, I really do hope he does well with it, and I hope it flourishes for him. All right, checking a few things on stream. Looks like we finally got our software issues figured out over here. That was frustrating. Jay, anything going on new in your world? Like any projects going on? Anything that anything interesting going on? I know you used to have quite a few different projects going, and can't remember what one of them. I know one of them was your dad's truck, I think. Yeah, I hear you. It is one of those things where right now people are just trying to either work or get through their schooling or do whatever they have to get out in the industry and make money. What were you going to school for again? I forgot. Is that oh, oh, you're still in okay. Yeah, I wasn't new stuff. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were in college yet or not. If you were working on a major, I couldn't remember. Yeah, I really hope our education system does get turned around. College in 2 to 3 years. Nice. Um, are you thinking tech school, or are you thinking like tech vocational, or are you thinking like degree wise? I like asking these questions because it can give us insight to where people are headed. Okay. I can tell you right now, if you were going to go into vocational, here's what I would tell you: aim for the industries that are going to be taking off and growing really big and where it's hard for them to find people. Those industries are electrician, plumber, carpenter. These are going to be great trades for the future. And they're going to guarantee high wages without much investment time in college. Electrician will be a little bit longer. You will have to go through an apprenticeship program. Plumber, they might do like a 1 year apprenticeship once you get out, but these are all great options. As far as mechanic, I know the mechanic industry is hurting, and I want to support my fellow mechanics, but I can't. What the automotive industry is doing to mechanics, it's not right. They are honestly hurting the mechanic field by putting everyone on book rate and then forcing them to work at a very fast pace where they're going to miss things. The reason I scaled my business the way I did is then I can take the time to look at the vehicle and the vehicle's needs, not necessarily my needs financially. And that's how I modeled this business. I didn't want to rush through a repair. On a 100K service, if I rush this, I'm going to miss something. And when I miss it, it's my customer who could be broke down on the side of the road. I want that. And I fought for a long time, like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to even make it profitable? But it is. I don't make as much as other people do doing this kind of work, but I'm also providing a service. So to me, I'm giving back as well. So I'm okay with that. But yeah, your trades are going to be the way to go. Lineman is a very difficult job. If you're going to do lineman, you may not be in college that long. I think lineman school is only like 10 months. Problem with lineman is it's very physically demanding. I would say also, if you were to go get a Class A and drive truck, you could make good money. Hard part is you wind up going over the road for quite a few years before you can find a local job. And then you could potentially get in with a garbage company. Problem with a garbage company is it's very physically demanding on your body, and you could have issues there. I know I did, which is the reason why I will never go back to working garbage again. It is just grueling on your body, beats you up. Yeah, even though you're in 11th grade, it's not too early to think about what you're going to do for your future and kind of have a plan. You don't want to be graduating next year and be wondering how are you or what are you going to do. You know, it's okay to go into the working field right out of high school. I did, but I also went into college as well. I went for auto body. Not a good industry. I would not recommend it. I went there because one of my mentors was an auto body tech, and my dad was a mechanic. So I tried to blend the best of both worlds, which is why I work on cars, which is why I show you guys the stuff I show you. I'm not only showing you guys cosmetic stuff, I'm also showing you guys practical stuff, especially on the repair side. Have you thought about what you're going to go for? Like, have you put any thought into it? Oh, computers is another good way to go too. But some of that's going to get some of that's going to take a hit with AI, which is why the trades are going to be where you're going to want to be. AI is not going to be able to wire a house. AI is not going to be able to fix a plumbing in a house or an apartment. Those jobs will always be there. They will never go anywhere. I know that kind of went a little off topic on the automotive. Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely going to want to have a plan for next year after you graduate. You're going to want to know, have a plan before you start next school year of what you're going to do and where you're going to go. Honestly, going into the working field isn't a bad thing right out of high school, because it's going to give you some of that real world experience that you're going to need when you actually take and choose a profession that you're going to do. It's a good experience. And there's a lot of ways out there to make $100,000 a year without having to go to college. Some of it requires you doing some educational stuff on your own, learning on your own, getting some real world experience. Those things come with time. So you're either going to trade college for time, or you're going to trade time for experience. And some people will trade their time for college and then trade more time to get the experience. Those are what I call a losing game. The reason it's a losing game is if you could have gotten the experience right away, then you could have bypassed the college and all that massive debt. College, for the most part, as an institution, is a scam. You're going to spend way more than what you're going to get out of it the first few years that you go. And depending on what your study was, you may never recoup your losses because their tuition costs are too high for some of those programs. A good example is anything that's liberal arts. Anything liberal arts. If you're going for any kind of arts degree, you wasted your time. Absolute, complete waste of time. I know I'm throwing a lot of teachers under the bus with that, but liberal arts does not help you in the real world. It means nothing in the real world. You will not find a mechanic with a liberal arts degree working on your car. They're going to think they're above working on cars, so they're not going to get their hands dirty. I know I just picked a fight with that one, but it is the truth. I mean, you're just not going to see people with those kind of degrees doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, you got a lot to think about, Jay, over the next year. What kind of direction and purpose you're going to take. Where do you want your life to take you? And the job could definitely help with that. Anyone going in the automotive field right now, I would tell you, if you're going to spend money to go to college, if you're not going to places like UTI, which are specific training on certain automotive things, you're wasting your time and your money. Fortunately, when you go to those programs, not only do you got to travel out of state to go to those colleges, but they will then send you out after college, and you might be going to a whole nother state again in order to get a job. Now, those jobs are going to be in high demand, and you're going to get paid well, but you're going to have to uproot and move twice in order to find a good working industry in the automotive if you're going to go to a place like UTI. Tech colleges are just going to train you how to do book rate. Not a good setup. Not a good setup. And they will not give you the business management courses that you're going to need to know how to run your own business. I learned how to run my own business by owning my own business. I owned my first business at 25 years old. I went through all the bumps, all the hurdles, taxes, the whole 9 yards, having employees. I did it at a very young age. The reason why is my dad passed away of cancer when I was 22 years old. I was thrust into it very quickly at a very young age. It is a tough way to grow up, but it taught me a lot of life lessons that I still use today, even in my current automotive business. Now, I haven't scaled my automotive business. The town I live in is not going to be accepting of me advertising a business in a residential area. Because of that, I'm not advertising it. So everything I do are people that I know or people that know the people that I do work for. Those are my customers. Checking a few things, guys. Yeah, our education system has really failed. It broke down when I was a kid. 80s and 90s was a bad turning point in our education process. We went away from teaching people history and learning the truth to propaganda and a whole bunch of other stuff. I can see why Jay definitely wants me to do the second channel, though, because on there I am going to talk about some of that history stuff. And I'm going to show everyone how it correlates. You know, I can, a lot of times, especially with this setup, what's nice is I can actually pull up articles for you guys. So it usually in a moment's notice, I can go in and I can pull up articles. I'm actually working on, see if I can set this up quick. Just like that. So I can pull up articles really quick, guys. So when I'm doing that second channel, a lot of my stream is going to look like this, guys. With the second channel, I'll be showing you guys what's going on. You know, there are times like if I'm coming over to here, I do have to be careful about not playing sound because sound can get copyright issues. But this would allow me to kind of talk to you guys about some of the current event stuff. Like I said, right now the big thing that's going on is the memorial service at the Arizona Cardinal Stadium, State Farm Stadium. So that's the big thing going on right now. I do watch people that do video game stuff, Mitch Flower Power, and I also watch, I don't have one up right now from him, Blue Television Gaming, Darby. So I do watch a couple of guys that are doing the video game stuff. I used to play video games when I was a kid, but my systems go way back. We're talking Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Though that was my era. Yeah, the subject I learned a lot about it is history at school. You watch Real CarMax? No, I do not. Not one of the ones that I normally watch. As far as video games, it's usually either Mitch Flower Power or Blue Television Gaming. Both of them were Mario speedrunners back in the day. Mitch Flower Power, I believe, actually holds the speedrunning record right now for Super Mario Brothers 3. So he's currently the world record holder for fastest 100% completion for Mario Brothers 3. Darby just plays a bunch of weird stuff, and he also reacts to Level Up. So Level Up does a bunch of Mario stuff and a bunch of video game stuff. He reacts to those videos, plus he does play a lot of the weird video games. And on some of his streams, he does like an open stream play where he'll just let them pick a video game and then he plays it with them on stream. So that's cool. I like watching that. But yeah, my video games go they go way back. We're talking Mario Brothers 1, Duck Hunt, Donkey Kong. Those were kind of the ones growing up when I was a kid. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's see, what else? Double Dragon. It goes, a lot of the older NES games I'm very familiar with. Paperboy. So those are my video games. Now, I have elevated throughout the years. I've played World of Warcraft for a while. I did Diablo 3. I stopped at Diablo 3. I was not a fan of the mobile Diablo 4. Was not a fan of it. Absolutely was not a fan of Diablo 4. I think once they went to playing on cell phones, they just kind of lost me. I wasn't really into that at all. Keeping an eye on the time, just because I will have to wrap up before 5 o'clock because the customer is going to come and get this. What are you into, Jay? Well, what do you play the most? Usually when I play and I have time, it's usually Mario Brothers 3. Otherwise, I do play Mario 1, and I still play Diablo 3. Actually, I got almost every character that you could have on Diablo 3. I have them maxed out. And I've even got them, they've got modded gear. So I can practically one-hit Diablo, which is the final boss of the game. I can pretty much one-hit him. He's got like 3 stages that you have to go through to beat him, but I can pretty much one-shot him in each stage because I got my characters just maxed out. What game are you playing, Jay? What's one of your favorite go-tos? I know everyone that plays has their different favorites. CKRP. Don't know what that is. Central Kansas Roleplay. Never heard of that one before. Oh, okay. All right, Roblox. Yeah, Roblox. They've gone through a lot of controversy lately. Huge amount of controversy. There's a lot going on with that. Car Simulator 2 game that I used to play. Yeah, I seen one of those car simulator games and it was really cool. Like you could take a complete junker, strip it down, and rebuild the car all the way from the ground up. Now it's nowhere near reality. You're not going to paint a car that quick in real life, and if you do, it looks like trash. Um, but it's still they got pretty detailed. I think they're up. Are they up to Car Simulator 4? I thought they had Car Simulator 3 out, and the last one that I saw was very detailed. Like crazy detailed. Like you could actually spend time unbolting a hub Like you had to unbolt the wheel, you had to unbolt the brakes. It was very detailed. I think Car Simulator 2 was the first one I saw, and then I think they came out with 3, but I think they might be on 4 by now. Yeah, it was crazy. When I saw that game, I was like, do I want to get it? But I was like, I don't know if I want to spend that much time playing a video game. It's like the mobile game. Okay. And Car X2. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll take a peek at them. I know that if I get sucked into a video game, it'll just be another distraction to me. Uh, at this point, I've got a lot going on to where it's hard for me to sit down and pull myself away just to play video games, but I still try to do it from time to time. It's a good way for me to relax and kind of let things go and just play a video game or two. So I do still try to do that, but running a business, doing car repairs for customers, working my main job where I'm driving truck, pulling hazmat materials, that takes up the majority of my time. Plus, having a family to take care of. So it's a lot, as you'll find out as you get older, your priorities do shift a little bit from the gaming stuff. I wish I would have kept my skills up a little bit though, because I've lost a lot. Like I used to be able to blast through Mario 3, and yeah, now I'm rusty. I think the last time I played, I made it to like World 2, and I was like, okay, I'm just dying too much here in World 2. But yeah, kind of wish I would have kept those skills up, but then again, I get it. You got to make money, you got to pay the bills, got to take care of your family, and those are the most important things. So the rest is just taking time to relax and decompress. And everyone should do that. No matter what, Jay, no matter what anyone tells you, don't ever think you need to work 7 days a week. You do need to work, and you do need to work hard when you work, but don't work all the time. Take some time, at least a little bit, every week as downtime. It is the best advice I can give anyone who's younger. Don't work yourself to the bone. I did when I was a kid, but I was forced into a different situation than most people are. When my dad passed away, I had a house, I had a shop, I had bills, literally the next day. I was thrust into adulthood very early in life. And if you're not in that situation, don't rush yourself to be in that situation. But yes, always take a little bit of downtime every week. Don't give yourself 100% to work. You will burn out. And burnout is real. It doesn't matter if I'm doing this YouTube stuff, playing video games, working my main job. If I dedicate myself to doing that all the time, you're going to burn out. You're not going to be able to continue doing it. If I was just working on cars in my garage, I would burn myself out. Because at some point, I wouldn't even want to work on my own stuff. And I had gotten to some of those points in my life. I stopped owning sports cars because I got burned out. I got burned out of working on them all the time. I would take them out, race them, beat them up, break something, have to fix it, bring it back, take it back out again, break something again, bring it back. Yeah, I got burned out. I think I went 12 years without having a sports car. And for me, that was rare. I always had one. Ever since high school, I've had sports cars. And I've had some fast ones, really fast ones. Pontiac Trans Am, IROC Camaro, Cutlass. I've had some really fast cars, a couple of Mustangs. I've had my fair share of fast vehicles. The GTO is going to be one of those fast ones again. I'm back in the saddle. When I bring in the GTO, you guys are going to see me take that to places that I used to go back in the day when I worked on cars. there is a high likeliness that I'm going to have that car tore apart in here for a while. My first goal is to get it running good. Once I get it running good, then it's going to be, how can I make it better? And one of those ways I can make it better is heads and cam. Already considered it. All right. But yeah, the second channel, guys, is going to be basically, we're going to talk about the world's current events. We're going to scroll through and we're going to look at this situation. We're going to look at how this is going to change the world. We're going to talk about things like what he did to really change the world. We're also going to look at historical things. I might pull up videos that have some of that on there. Now, again, I got to be careful about what I show due to copyright, sound, all that. So I'm going to have to figure that out and how I'm going to put all that stuff in there so I don't have those issues. But I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It's sad that our schools have failed the education so bad that you will learn more your first 2 years out of high school than you learned your entire time in high school. And that is a fact. I know because I did it. Just checking a few things on the other side. All right, guys. I think this has been a really good stream. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up here. We're going to be back at 7 o'clock tonight to cover automotive news. We're also going to recap today's project. Homework is half the struggle for me. Honestly, homework sucked for me. I was a very, very not very good student. And it wasn't that I didn't try. I did all my homework. But I was horrible at taking tests. Horrible. I couldn't take a test to save my life, which is why I did not stay in college. I went for 1 year of auto body, and after that, I was out. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing good in auto body. I had straight A's. But yeah, I suck at taking tests. Barely got half my homework done on time, and the other half of my homework is later missing. Yeah, the only thing that saved me was my homework because my test scores were just horrible. I could ace the homework, literally get an A on the homework. But then as soon as I took the test, D. Like I'd barely skate in. So yeah, I knew that I was more of a hands-on person than what I was, learning any other way. I knew that whatever I did to provide for my family in the future, it was going to be a hands-on thing. I wasn't going to do something as technical as like computer programming or something like that. I would have had to really work hard to be good at computer programming. But a lot of computer programming right now is all being done by AI, and a lot of those jobs are going to get flushed out. Which is why, honestly, the hands-on approach is going to be your best way to go for the future. It really is. Some people look down on people that are plumbers, electricians, but honestly, those people have a lot in life. They do amazing. And that's because they're in an industry where they're in high demand, and that high demand, they can require higher pay. Mechanic, not so much. Between buying your tools, working for dealerships until you get the experience to go off on your own, being a mechanic is not a good game. The only reason I got it is I spent a decade in the industry playing around, doing different things, tuning cars, building cars. I got all of my knowledge hands-on. I didn't learn from a textbook. Yeah, I learned a little bit from YouTube, and I still look things up today on YouTube just because it's quicker to diagnose what's going on, figure out how to fix it, than it is to try to chase it down through old textbooks. That way of doing things is gone. We don't do diagnostics through textbook anymore. Even our scan tools have gotten so sophisticated now that they pretty much tell us the route to go. And some of them will even give us recommended approaches for doing a lot of those repairs. And that's the big thing, is that as technology grows and changes, we have to be willing to change with it. You know, cars like this, yeah, they might be, a fair amount of work right now. The stuff on the market now for the future is only going to get tougher to work on. EVs are almost impossible to work on unless you're working in a shop that you have all the tools and all the equipment to work on them. You can't, because you need to de-energize the system. And if you don't know how to de-energize it, you can't work on it. It's not safe to touch if you can't de-energize the system. Even changing an electric motor in an electric car, you can't do it if you do not know how to de-energize the system. Meaning you need to isolate the battery, remove it from the system. Whether you take it out of the vehicle or not, you need to make sure that it isn't feeding power anywhere. Because if you put a wrench on the wrong spot, it will kill you that quick. EVs are nothing to play around with, and that's why I don't want to see them become industry standard. Because industry standard EVs means that the days of people working on their own cars are gone, permanently gone. And when people can't work on their own cars, you don't have a sustainable transportation system. Meaning that when people can't work on their cars and they got to take everything in, then they need to make more money to pay somebody else to work on those cars. And honestly, at a certain point, you're not going to make any more money doing what you're doing. That's why I would prefer to see gas engines stay around, and for enough of them to stay in the industry for people to work on cars. And they are. Right now, the majority of cars on the road right now are over 10 years old. Because they're over 10 years old, they require a lot of maintenance. Everything I just covered is literally what you got to do to keep them on the road. All right, Jay, well, you get your homework done, and guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. We will be back tonight at 7 p.m. for our automotive news. In there, we're going to cover all of the news topics for the week. We're also going to recap everything that we did here in this video. So, guys, tune in at 7 tonight, and I'll see you on the next one.